Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the CCSN podcast. I am Chris Caselli here with my friend and co-worker, Chase Carlos. How you doing today?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, we got a lot to discuss, as you all know. Let's just dive right into it. Fernando Tatis suspension. 80 games, PEDs, crazy. Face of baseball. Chase, tell me something.
Well, you can't do that. Definitely can't do that. It's very disappointing because, as you said, he's the face of baseball. They were trying to push him as the face of baseball, and to make a mistake like that, it's huge. And I know he's saying the ringworm thing. Nobody's buying it. There's not a single person that's buying it. AJ Preller's not buying it. And if it were actually real, if there was actually a ringworm thing, he would have had a case and he would have brought it to the MLB instead of just accepting his suspension right away. So I think he's kind of just, it's embarrassing for the Padres, to be honest.
I completely agree with you. And the other thing is, especially with ringworm, if he had ringworm, he would have went to Walgreens and got a $10 cortisone cream, if we're all being honest here. We all know that. We all know that's BS. And the worst part about the whole ringworm thing to me is his mom posting on social media these long paragraph and a picture of Fernando's neck, which looks like ringworm. And she's saying, my son would never take steroids, blah, 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 all this stuff. And in my opinion, she's just making this whole thing worse for him, worse for his whole family, worse for the whole Padres. Got to get past it now. Serve your suspension. Say you did something wrong, and then you're going to play the rest of your career, because he's already missing the rest of this year and he's missing the first 42 games of next season. So that's big. I mean, for a guy who just signed a 13-year contract, this is probably the worst way I could ever picture someone starting it. Motorcycle crash and now this.
Yeah, and this has to be absolute nightmare scenario for the Padres. They just made this Soto move, expecting this to be their window. Tatis is coming back. We've got 2 years now to win now.
Improve the Soto that
and now you're just going to have here. What is it? Maybe 100 games between Soto and Tatis, or it's a season and 100 games. Yeah. So it's not that much. It's really not too long between the two of them, and that's assuming that Tatis comes back as scheduled. I mean, who knows? He might just hop on another motorcycle, and we're talking about maybe another injury. So you never know. Tatis is one of those guys who he's incredible when he plays, but so far it's been very wishy-washy with him. So I don't know how I'd feel about the Padres right now. Well, actually I do. Not good.
Yeah, it's been for when he plays too, as you said. Mm-hmm. So and this thing is, Preller was pissed in that press conference. He even said, oh, I absolutely agree with him. I agree with you too. He literally said, we're 100%. We back the suspension. We know what he did was wrong. And it's really bad when the guy you just, as I said, you gave a 13-year deal to, was supposed to be the face of your team, face of baseball. And he said, look, we can't trust this guy. I mean, there's been 2 incidents where he has gone behind our back and we really didn't know. And it's caused him not to be able to be on the field. And that's all they want from him. That's all they need, obviously. And it stinks. It stinks for the Padres. It stinks for baseball. And the people I feel the most bad for are the young fans, because I was just thinking about yesterday, my 10-year-old self in 2015, if Mike Trout or Bryce Harper tested positive for steroids, I would have been crying in my pillow, because I would have been like, oh my God, my idol, the best player in baseball, he cheated, he lied to everybody. And, he's never going to get that face of baseball back. He's always going to be the guy who took steroids. I mean, look at Robinson Cano. People look at Robinson Cano as the guy who took steroids, and it wasn't even in the middle of his prime or at his best. So this is going to stick with him the rest of his life or the rest of his career. And that's just that. And I don't feel bad for him. He did what he did. He cheated the game.
I think you actually hit it on the head when you said the rest of his life. I think this eventually, long term, if he ends up being as good of a player when he plays as he has been, might keep him out of the Hall of Fame. I think that he's a Hall of Fame talent, but these kind of issues are huge, and they take them into account, especially in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And the word that I keep hearing a lot is maturity. Everybody around the situation says he has to mature, and he just isn't doing so. And that's huge, especially as you said, $350 million contract. You need that guy to be mature. You need him to be the face of your franchise. Guys that get those contracts, Bryce Harper, he got that contract. He matured because he was one of those guys that was arrogant. Now he's become a leader in a franchise, and it's really helping them. You see where the Phillies are a lot because of Bryce Harper. So I think
Absolutely.
that Tatis is not doing his job to the best of his extent. And well, that's not even a question. He has been, since he got that contract, extremely disappointing on and off the field.
It's terrible too, because even at his teammates, I mean, I was watching a Mike Clevenger interview from last night, and he used the words that you said. He's immature. He needs to grow up. And for a $350 million contract, you damn sure should grow up fast. And I am excited to see him come back next year. If I'm being honest with you, I want to see, was it 60% steroids? Was it 50% steroids making him hit all these home runs? Let's see if he still got it. And you know what? I am here for him to make a return. I want to see him do good, because I was a Tatis fan, to be honest with you. I loved what he was doing for the game. He put the game back on the map, and he's one of those young players that you could look up to and get excited for the rest of his career. And I'm still excited, but not as excited. But we'll see what happens with him. But for the Padres, you got to put your foot right back on the gas pedal, even harder this time. Players like Machado, Brandon Drury, Kim, who's their shortstop now, Juan Soto, obviously, Josh Bell, all those guys, you got to look at the rest of this season and say, this is it. I mean, for a lot of teams, if you're saying Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Josh Soto, Brandon Drury, this is it.
You're happy.
You'd be like, you're happy, but this is it. And you got to go out there. You got to show, we're not just Fernando Tatis. We're the San Diego Padres. We're going to go out there. We're going to compete, and we're going to make noise in the playoffs. Can they do it? Yes. Do I think they're going to go that deep in the playoffs? No. But, prove me wrong. Prove me that you can be this top team that your GM obviously thinks you can be.
It just felt like right now was the time to start that. Like, as Tatis was injured, making his rehab, now as soon you had this team and you're already playing poorly, you got swept by the Dodgers, you're not winning games. I mean, they went in there, they beat up on the Nationals. That's the Nationals. They're a AAA team pretty much.
Yeah.
So I feel like that if we were going to see that from the Padres, them coming together and rallying without Tatis, the time was a little bit before this. Now it's just you're getting your grave dug even deeper.
You are where you're at, and got to make the most of it, basically. I'm excited to see what they do the rest of the year, but let's move on. New York Mets and Philadelphia Phillies last night. That was one of the best games I have watched this season, and it was 2-1. And to say a 2-1 game was one of the best games I've ever watched, had to be pretty damn good. And that pitching matchup was nuts. Ranger Suarez versus Max Scherzer. The Mets absolutely wasted a gem of a game from Scherzer. 7 innings pitched, 6 Ks, no walks, and only 1 earned run, which came in the first inning. And then Ranger Suarez, again, showed why he is the number 3 in this playoff rotation. 7 innings pitched, 4 Ks, 2 walks, and 1 earned run. He has been fantastic ever since his return from the IL. One of the best pitchers in baseball, if we're being honest right now. And I'm excited for this Phillies team. You got anything to say about Suarez, Scherzer?
Yeah, I mean, when you say Ranger Suarez is one of the best pitchers in baseball, a lot of times that'll go in people's ears and they'll be like, damn, that makes no sense. But since returning from the IL on July 7th, Ranger Suarez has a 2.58 ERA, a 1.13 whip, a 2.6 walks per 9, and he's allowing less than 0.66 home runs per 9. And in his career 281 innings, he has a sub-3 ERA at 2.98. Ranger Suarez, since he's been up in the major leagues, has been as productive and as consistent as almost any other pitcher. And he just doesn't get talked about that much because for a while he was doing it in short inning spurts. But now, as you said, he's going 6 innings. I think there was a 7.2 inning game he went the other day. He is starting to come into his own, and he's still very young. I think Ranger Suarez is one of the premier pitchers we have in the league, and he's still, as I said, young.
Yeah, absolutely. And he did this in like a playoff environment. He did it on the road in New York, a team of a fan base who hates you. New York Mets and Philadelphia Phillies fan bases, they hate each other. We all know this. This game 1 looked like a playoff atmosphere. And I can't wait for tonight. We have Aaron Nola versus DeGrom on the mound. But let's get back to last night. Bryson Stott, first player ever to get on base 4 times against Max Scherzer. It was his first time leading off, which I think is the most impressive part of it. He shows that he is the future of the Philadelphia Phillies. He's great at shortstop. He had made some great plays even at shortstop along with 3-hit night against Scherzer. And I think that this just shows having talent from within really, really improves your team. I mean, obviously, but that's been the case with the Phillies the past couple of years. All their homegrown talent hasn't really been talented, but now their homegrown talent won that game for them last night. Alec Boehm had the 2 RBIs for them coming in the first inning and in the top of the 10th last night. And I'm just really excited for this team. They look like a well-built ball club. That's all you could really say about them right now.
Yeah, it's beautiful to watch. We said it almost on every episode, but no holes in that lineup right now. Every single player is dangerous in that lineup, and it's exciting, especially because there's a lot of young guys in that lineup. Alec Boehm is somebody that does not get enough credit on a national stage. He just had one of the hottest months in baseball, hitting around, I think it was 450, and he's just been incredible. The defense, it gets talked about a lot because there's a lot of very low light plays, but consistently, Alec Boehm has been a very decent defender, and he has the potential there to stick long term at the hot corner. So I like Alec Boehm and really what he's putting on paper. There was a time last season where Phillies fans started to give up on Alec Boehm, considering I think he had like a 650 OPS throughout the season. He was not hitting very well. And for a guy that's just a hitter and wasn't performing well defensively, it didn't look very well. But like you said, homegrown talent hits different. So it's perfect.
There were a lot of people even coming into the season this year who wanted Stott at third base, Didi at short, and we all know how that would have turned out. I mean, Didi Gregorius is already off the team, and I think that was one of the biggest things that Dave Dombrowski did at the deadline, or over the past 2 weeks. This really proved that this is Bryson Stott's shortstop. He is our shortstop. He is our guy that we want there, and Dombrowski's making these moves. I really like it, but talking about the Mets again, Edwin Diaz last night, I mean, that entrance was electric, and it was insane. I mean, I was watching the game and I wanted to go out there and pitch. He threw 8 pitches, 2 strikeouts. He was absolutely dominant. But this is my other point. Sir Anthony Dominguez for the Philadelphia Phillies is great this year. I think his ERA is 1.52, if I'm not wrong. He's been fantastic ever since coming back from Tommy John surgery. They've had him this whole year. Yes, he's been a fantastic closer. He's been reliable. But I think that David Robertson move at the trade deadline was fantastic by Dave Dombrowski, because who do you send out there in the bottom of the 10th inning with a man on second? I don't think you trust anybody else in that bullpen to be that guy in that moment. Robertson's played for the New York Yankees. He's been in major games, and I just think that is going to be a fantastic move for them down the line.
Yeah, you can never have enough relief pitching, and there's a lot of teams that are in the hunt right now that didn't make those relief pitching moves. One of them who did the exact opposite that's in the hunt is Milwaukee, and that's a team who one of Milwaukee, Atlanta, San Diego, the Phillies, and St. Louis have to miss the playoffs, or I think it's 2 of those actually, and I think Milwaukee is an absolute lock to miss the playoffs at this point. They were hunting. They were right there. A lot of times they looked like one of a top 10 team in baseball, but right now they got rid of their best relief pitcher in Hader, and they don't have the guys in their system to bring up and fill that hole now. So I think that Milwaukee has been just an absolute mess this season, and they really blew a chance to come back and be a competitor.
I always looked at the Brewers kind of the way I looked at not the Indians, the Guardians. They're one of those teams who always have the pitching staff, or recently they've always had the pitching staff. Their pitching staff is fantastic, but they never go out there and they get the extra bats they really need to put them over the edge. Ever since Christian Yelich's first MVP season, where they had him and Ryan Braun batting back-to-back, and they almost made the World Series. They forced a Game 7 against the Dodgers. I haven't seen a Brewers offense that I can really trust ever since. And coming into this year, people had the Brewers as a top 5 team. And I looked at that offense. I looked at Christian Yelich struggling over the past 2 seasons, and he's struggling still. I don't trust that offense come playoff time. As you said, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to miss the playoffs. But if they did, I'm not scared of that offense. And I don't think any great pitcher really is. So, they're just really disappointing. And I think they really did lose the deadline. And that's just how it is.
Yeah, definitely. You want to talk about the Orioles a little bit? the
Yeah,
run
I
they're
love
going
the
on.
Baltimore Orioles.
I
Sole
think,
possession of the last wild card spot right now. And that's saying
yeah.
something for a team who lost 20 in a row last year. So
And they didn't start the season off very well either. They started the season off on that same note, and then it's just been on fire recently. And that's all due to Adley Rushman to me. He calls a beautiful game, and offensively, he is absolutely one of the best catchers in baseball. He's got an 804 OPS, and since the All Star break, it's over 1,000, I believe. Adley Rushman is just the prototypical catcher in the modern era, and I love seeing him play every day. I will tune into Baltimore Orioles games for Adley Rushman, and it's really a beautiful thing.
yeah, and I really would never have thought I'd be saying that in the beginning of the year. I'd be tuning into Orioles games. But the Orioles have a lot of players on that team who I just really like. I mean, I really like Anthony Santander. I like Jorge Mateo. They just got a lot of guys who can ball. And if I'm being quite honest with you, I mean, I think this wild card race between the Twins, the Orioles, and it's probably going to come down between like the Guardians and White Sox, maybe. But I'm really excited for the battle for the last spot. I don't think the Orioles are going to win it, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's going to be either the Twins or the Guardians who pull out for that last spot. But I am rooting for them to make it because it's just a great story. It's like America's team right now. But we'll see. And I think they have the brightest future of
They
all
don't even
baseball
have to
teams.
make it.
They don't have to make it. And they're a success story. But it's as a baseball fan, as a fan of your team and going into an off season, it's awesome to think we're probably going to be buyers this year. We're going to be going for big free agents. And that is exactly what I think Baltimore is going to do. And I'm really excited. And when they're good, like back in 2012, 2013, it was a long time ago, but they used to buy, they went out for those big free agents. They were not afraid to spend money. So I really think the Orioles are going to be one of those teams this year in free agency who's going to go snag one or two big guys. And they're going to say, we're here to compete for the AL East. We're here to compete in the American League for many years to come. So, as you said, they're really exciting and I'm all here for them.
They've got John Means coming back next year, and a guy that I'm really high on is Anthony Santander. I think we have not seen the peak of Santander at this point. He's really starting to find his power stroke from the right side of the plate. And honestly, I watch him on the right side of the plate in comparison to the left. I think it's almost night and day. And I don't want to tell him how to do his job, but he's better from the right side of the plate by a mile. I think he should stick there, but whatever, do your thing. But I think that we are really going to see a turn in Santander's career because he's got a close to an 800 OPS for his career, but it's starting to trend upwards now. He's got 21 home runs this year, and I really like his plate approach and the power in his swing. So I think he'll have and he's only 27. So I see a bright future for Santander going forward.
Absolutely. And along with all these guys we just mentioned, they have a fantastic farm system. They have the number one prospect in baseball right now. They just drafted the number one guy overall, Holiday, who I think is going to be an absolute stud when it's his time. But they have Grayson Rodriguez, who I really like, 6'5" pitcher, 220 pounds. He's 22 years old only. I think he's going to make throws absolute gas. I think he's going to be a key contributor to that rotation next year. And I think even Gunnar Henderson, I can see him being their full-time third baseman next year, or probably third baseman. I was going to say second base, but that doesn't really make enough sense. But I think he's going to be on that roster next year, and I'm really excited. And that's why I think that if there is an off season to go spend your money, if you're the Baltimore Orioles, it's right now. Go get some guys for a few years while your key guys like Adley Rushman are still on your rookie deals, and you can just pay them $100 a game. You know what I mean? So go out there, go do it right now. Because I think if they get 3 to 4 big guys, or not 3 to 4, 2 to 3, go get a really good starting pitcher, they're going to be dangerous next year. So watch out for the O's, baby. Watch out. But moving on, we got a team that we all know is going to be really good coming into this year, but they are really good right now and really hot. The LA Dodgers. They just came off their 11th win of 11-game win streak, and they're looking to increase it tonight against the Royals. They won last night 9-3, and they are just looking unbeatable right now. They look like a team who has no problems, a team who is going to just do great things. I mean, Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, Freddie Freeman, what do you expect, honestly? But in the beginning of the year, it was close to see who was better, the Yankees or the Dodgers. But right now, I mean, the Dodgers have just made it pretty clear cut. Have been the best team, and we are the best team. So they're going to be really hard to beat come playoff time. But I really like their role players, if I'm being honest. I mean, Trace Thompson's been one of my favorite players to watch this year. He's been competitive every time he's on the field. He's come up with big hits. And what's better than watching Trace Thompson hit a double and then watching Klay Thompson chug a beer in the stands? So, I mean, that's just great. I'm all here for Trace Thompson. I'm all here for the Trace Thompson fan club. And they're going to be really hard to beat, but that's going to be really fun playoff matches to watch.
Yeah, the Dodgers just have like so much talent on that roster, and it's so fun to watch their hitting. They've got some of the best bats in the league, but their pitching is so fun to me. I love almost every pitcher on that roster is incredible. Julio Urias is one of my favorite pitchers in the game, and the return of the Ginger Killer is so. I can't wait for Dustin May to come back.
And Walker Buehler.
Walker Buehler is incredible, dude. Like their entire roster is loaded from top to bottom. Every day that goes on, they keep getting more and more the favorites for the pennant this season. But who knows? It could every year at this point we feel like that for the Dodgers. So
this is one of those. The last time I felt this way about the Dodgers, where I was like, no shot they lose, was when they lost to the Astros a couple years back. So you never know, but I think they're going to go deep and, pull a LA Dodgers. Maybe they'll get past their Mickey Mouse ring this year, but we'll see. Yankees. New York has a closing problem, ladies and gentlemen. Clay Holmes has been horrible since the All-Star break. And just to break it down for you, and he has 3 blown saves in his last 11 games. And he had 2 in his previous 38. His ERA was 1.20 on July 28th, and now it's sitting at 2.39. He literally looks like he's lost up there. He looks nervous every time he goes up there. And Yankees fans, this is how desperate they are right now. They want Aroldis Chapman back in the closing role. And that was a guy they wanted him to get cut. So Yankees fans are in trouble right now. They can't buy a win. They lost last night to the Red Sox. Aaron Judge hit another home run, but couldn't save them. They're in trouble right now, the New York Yankees.
I'll always say it. I hate the way that roster is constructed. I think Giancarlo Stanton is one of the worst contracts in baseball history, probably. And him making the All-Star team this season was very strange to me. As a DH with an 800 OPS, just pretty much flat 800, I feel like there were some better options, in my opinion. But it's neither here nor there. Stanton's one of them. You're paying a DH $35 million a year until 2027. I don't love that. Do you pay Judge because he's 29? That's kind of exactly what you did with Stanton. So are you feeling like doing that exactly again? You got the Hicks contract, you got the Garrett Cole contract, which is awful. He's not an ace in my opinion. He's got ace stuff, but he's not consistent enough to be an ace for a championship level team. So I really don't like the way they're the Yankees. They can spend all this money, but they haven't done it right. So
I absolutely agree.
We say this every episode pretty much that the Yankees are a joke. Donaldson was another bad move. But
Benintendi's been terrible, batting 182 right now. So
they are another team that could benefit from bringing up the young players and getting that homegrown talent to make some impacts. Yeah. I don't understand why Schmidt isn't up.
Absolutely. He was great last night in AAA. 7 innings. Not perfect, but they didn't allow a run. So as you mentioned, Cashman's one of those GMs who he likes his guys and he's going to keep them. I mean, if they didn't trade Joey Gallo, there's no doubt in my mind he would still be in that lineup today. So, the Yankees are stuck in their ways, and I think it's going to burn them come playoff time. But, we'll see. We'll see with them.
Yeah, Clay Holmes is cooked. He needs a quick IL stint. Just a rest, 10-day rest. Get yourself back together, then come back.
Because I don't think it's time to give up on Holmes because he was fantastic in the first half, and that's what a lot of Yankees fans like. That's what a lot of baseball fans in general have to realize. Like, players are gonna go through a week or two maybe where they suck, and it's a long season. So as you said, I really do think a 10-day IL stint where he could get his mind back together, he can get healthy again, would do wonders for a guy like him. So Yankees fans, you got to relax a little bit when it comes to Clay Holmes. I mean, he was your knight in shining armor the first half, and you guys were saying he was the best closer since Mariano Rivera. So let's hold off on the Clay Holmes hate, in my opinion, right now.
The stuff didn't go anywhere. He still got that crazy movement on his pitches, even though if 90% of it was because he was cheating. But that's the cheating's not going anywhere either. The MLB is not getting rid of it. It helps the game too much. It's too good for the game.
And they're pissed that Tatis probably got caught, for being honest, right now. The MLB.
I don't know if PEDs is, I think pitching. I don't know. I feel like PEDs will just never be allowed again. They can't be.
Oh, never, but it makes it fun.
Foreign substances are allowed, though. Like, those are, I don't care if they check once in the first inning, they're allowed.
Absolutely. I mean, it makes it fun, to be honest. I mean, I remember when Madison's Bumgarner it was like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, where the ump was checking his hand and he was like having fun over there, and he got thrown out for that. So, I mean, I just think it makes it fun, all this stuff. So, we'll see. We'll see come play. Playoffs are around the corner for MLB. So I'm excited for that. But ready to move on to the NFL?
Do you want to wrap it up with one sleeper for the MLB this season? Because I got one. I want to talk about the Mariners.
For the what?
For the MLB.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
The Mariners are my sleeper. I think they're built exactly the right way. They've got the pitching that you need. Their pitching staff has been very underrated this season. They're 6th in team ERA. They're top 10 in opponent batting average. They're top 5 in opponent on base percentage. And they've recently added Castillo. So I really like what they're doing with that. J-Rod's one of my favorite players in the sport. He's coming back today. Ty France he's very good. He's a very good player. I like Ty France a lot. I think it's kind of funny that for back-to-back years, he's been leading the league in hit by pitches by a large margin. They recently got Mitch Haniger back, who's been incredible since coming back. And I just really think that they are a sleeper if they're able to get into the playoffs this season. And who knows?
If I was going to give a little sleeper, and this kind of depends on injuries, I would say the Tampa Bay Rays, because
that was the other team I was thinking, dude. They're on my list here.
I love the Rays. I think this team has just been plagued by injuries all year. I mean, there's been rumors that Tyler Glasnow could maybe make his return this year. I don't know if it would be in a starting role, but maybe in a long man role, which could be huge for the Rays. I mean, if there's any team that could really do wonders with a long man role, it's them. And I mean, they have Shane Baz, who might come back at the end of the year. They don't know about him yet, but they have just a lot of big names that are hurt right now. And the biggest one is Juan De Franco. I mean, he's the heart and soul of that offense. He was an MVP candidate coming into this year. And to be honest, if he was in San Diego, I think he would get the same amount of praise as a guy like Tatis gets, maybe. I mean, he's playing in a smaller market. He's better defensively, 100%. He's better on the base pass. He's better contact hitter. He's not a better power hitter yet, but he was getting the power the end of last year and the beginning of this year. So I just think when he comes back, that offense is going to take a surge. And if they get into playoffs, I would not want to play them. They're smart. They've been to the World Series, and if they kept Blake Snell in that game, who knows? They could have beat the top dogs that year. So we'll see. We'll see when it comes to that. But that's my sleeper pick. I think if the Rays can get a little healthy going into the playoffs, I'd be scared to play that. I'd be scared to play them. But I really do like your Mariners pick. We talked about them a couple episodes ago. I think that starting rotation is like top 3 in baseball. Logan Gilbert, I think, is one of the most underappreciated pitchers in baseball. Nobody talks about him. He's dirty. So I like them. I think they'd beat the Yankees in a 5-game series. I think that pitching, their bullpen has actually been the best bullpen since I think it's July 1st. So that's another thing you got to keep an eye on with the Mariners. That bullpen's been filthy. You got Julio Rodriguez coming back. I really like France. So as you said, that's a great team right there.
Yeah, I think both of those teams are getting overlooked right now. So
definitely
keep an eye on them.
Because they're not like the Yankees or they're not like the Red Sox. They're not playing in that huge market. So those are always the best teams to watch, though, if I'm being honest.
I love that the Mariners have J-Rod. But
oh yeah, he's like their Griffey reincarnation. They always get like that fun, cool player. Like they got Griffey, they got Ichiro, they even got A-Rod, and
he wasn't fun or cool, but
he was cool at first
for a minute.
They couldn't do anything with it. But let's see if they can. They got Kelnick though. That's been a bust for them. He's already back in AAA, but we'll see.
AAA king, dude.
AAA king. He's like Mickey Moniak. But yeah, let's turn down to the NFL. We had a lot of stuff. We had a lot of games last night. A lot of things we saw. What do you say? What'd you see? What'd you like? What'd you not like?
I want to start off with the Zach Wilson injury. That sucks, but he made a mistake. He was trying to do too much on that play, and NFL players really need to watch Zach Wilson and say, damn, nah, don't do that. Like, that is what you do not do in the preseason. He's trying to make something happen that doesn't need to be made happen. And another guy, a good segment for that is Malik Willis. Malik Willis showed a lot of flashes, and everybody liked to say he looked like a first-round pick out there. But
he showed why he was a third-round pick.
Exactly. He bailed on a lot of open pockets to scramble in the preseason, which is a huge issue because you don't want to make these extra plays right now. You don't want him scrambling for yards, juking people out, making people miss, getting hit right now. No, you want to see the arm now. You want to see the processing skills, the development of his arms talent and his placement. Instead, he missed Burks on a wide open touchdown down the field a couple of times. He missed a couple of throws to the sideline. He made some very good off-platform throws, but it's a mixed bag with Malik Willis. Like you said, he showed why he was a third-round pick, and while some people are saying he showed why he should have been a first-round pick, which is just not true.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Vrabel literally took him out for that reason because he wasn't throwing the ball, and he literally said that in the press conference. So that shows where they stand with him right now, and that shows why he was a third-round pick in my eyes. I mean, with a guy like that, where you 100% know that he was probably a project quarterback coming into the league, third round, that's where you sit. And honestly, I was looking back at a couple of quarterback classes. This one was horrible. I mean, Kenny Pickett shouldn't have even gone first round, and he did, but he shouldn't have. But it was terrible, and this, especially last year, and then next year is even great. So it was just terrible this year.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Kenny Pickett fan by any means. I think that he's the absolute worst talent to have been drafted in the first round for a quarterback outside of what's the guy, the 26-year-old that the Browns drafted in the first round?
Brandon Weeden.
Was it Weeden?
I think it was.
It was somebody that was a 26-year-old drafted in the first round that sucked. That's the only exception to Kenny Pickett, in my opinion. And I feel like that's harsh, very harsh. But I watched this guy in Pitt, and first of all, up until his final season at Pitt, where he was 23 and a half years old, he was not good. He was an absolutely terrible quarterback for those other seasons. And then while he's older than everybody else that he's playing with, he put up a decent season in a very there are some pro players on that Pitt offense, and he was decent. And he went in the first round for no reason in a quarterback class where I felt like everybody was pretty close in a tier. I don't think Kenny Pickett separated himself at all from any of the other quarterbacks. And to go in the first round, while not any other quarterback went in the top 3 rounds, I think A, the Steelers got fleeced, and B, Kenny Pickett is going to be not living up to expectations, because when you go on Twitter and see the way that Steelers fans talk about Kenny Pickett, you'd think it was Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, or Aaron Rodgers, and he was just going to be this all-time great quarterback. How? He's their third string to Mason Rudolph and Mitch Trubisky right now, and I think they're making the right decision.
Steelers have literally come out and said this is Mitch's team right now. So I mean, I think the film I've seen on Mitch Trubisky, I think it's clear-cut number one option right now. I've loved that signing back in a free agency for the Steelers, and he's going to be their quarterback, I think, this year, 100%. And if he's good, why would you move on from him? So I think, as you said, this is going to bite them right in the ass for the next couple of years, this pick, and it wasn't necessary. I think they rode too much with the story of it behind it.
The idea was to take a flyer on a quarterback because getting an elite quarterback can change your franchise. But the one quarterback in that class that had no chance to possibly be an elite quarterback to me was Kenny Pickett. I felt like Malik Willis had the chance to be an elite quarterback with his arm talent. I personally thought that Desmond Ritter had the talent to be an elite quarterback with the way he reads defenses, with his mobility. I feel like he's a lot like a Dak Prescott type. Kenny Pickett to me just made no sense. I don't like his footwork in the pocket, which is huge. That is not something that's easy to fix. And a lot of times people are like, oh, well, we'll fix it. Tell the Giants to fix it with Daniel Jones. It's not happening.
Daniel Jones, I was watching Colin Cowherd earlier, and he said it
Guy from
perfectly.
Duke.
Looks like a guy from Duke. And I was like, yeah, you're spot on right now. I don't think he looks like the quarterback of the New York Giants, but looks like a guy from Duke. But I just wanted to say this real quick. It was Brandon Weeden, and he wasn't 26. He was 28 in the first round. So
28 in the first round.
28 years old. So that's just
how do you make that decision as a front office?
Yeah,
that's embarrassing.
That is it. But talking about embarrassing the Cleveland Browns, let's talk about last night. And Deshaun Watson walked on that field, and you could hear the boos from streets away, which good. Shout out Jaguars fans for that, in my personal opinion. And he looked terrible. He was 1 for 5 yesterday. They had a couple. I think he had like 2, maybe like a dropped pass, I guess you could say. But I am not a Deshaun Watson guy at all, and I don't like the Cleveland Browns at all either. So I think that's going to be a dumpster fire of a situation. It's both ways. You
know who he looked like last night?
Who?
Baker Mayfield. Horrible footwork in the pocket. Just slinging the ball as hard as he could. Yeah, and he should be, because he's a complete asshole, and he's getting treated like one by everybody. You heard the "you sick fuck" chants? Those are awesome. As you said, shout out the Jaguars fans for that. They showed up in their biggest moment of their careers, because their preseason's about as good as it gets for the Jags. But he did not look good. His off-platform throws were just not what they used to be. It looked like the one in the flat where he was rolling out and he overthrew the player. It looked like Baker Mayfield. I've seen Baker Mayfield do that exact same thing and get kicked out of Cleveland for it. It's the preseason. It's his first time playing football in a while, but I am rooting so hard against Deshaun Watson. And anything that he does wrong, I will push to the front of the attention, because it deserves it. Sort of like with Karl Malone. It's kind of like Karl Malone. He's not a top 100 basketball player of all time. I don't care. But that's just kind of how it is with those kind of guys.
I absolutely agree, especially for guys who are going to just be millionaires for the rest of their life, no matter what. So
no shame in hating on them.
No shame. But same game yesterday. Trevor Lawrence looked pretty good. 6 for 12, 95 yards, touchdown. He had a really good QB rating, 104.5. So I think T-Law is going to have a really good year this year. I think he's going to show why he was the number 1 pick, why he was like the Michael Jordan of draft picks, according to literally everybody for 3 years. So I'm really excited for Trevor Lawrence. And I think Doug Peterson I think he was such a good hire for him. Like, just such a good hire for such a young team. ETN looked pretty bad yesterday, though. I mean, he was getting shut down really early when he was getting on his attempts. But as I said, I'm really excited for Trevor Lawrence. I think the Jaguars are going to they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to make any noise or anything, but they're definitely going to have an improvement of a season, I could say.
Yeah, I watched that game, actually. And what I have here for T-Law is just one word: poise. He had perfect poise for a quarterback, and it's something that you really love to see. And I wasn't as high as most people were on Trevor Lawrence coming in to the Jags specifically, because you're going to the Jags. You're a quarterback going to the Jags. And as much as people were calling him a perfect prospect, he overthrows some guys over the middle pretty often, honestly, because he has such a great arm talent that he doesn't know how to dial it back yet. So I think that there are not a lot, but there are a few issues with T-Law that have to get worked out. And like you said, Doug Peterson is a perfect hire for him. The only issue I have is that Shad Khan is still in charge of that team. Yeah. And until then, I don't trust him to make the right personnel moves, because he never has. And like ETN, he wasn't good at all. ETN looked very slow. He looked like he missed a step. And that's the guy that they were really counting on to be a huge piece of their offense. Their starting tight end is Evan Ingram. You're really hoping for a huge resurgence from Evan Ingram, a guy that just got cut from the Giants. So it's not like you're getting a premier tight end. You got James Robinson, who's been a very good power back for a few years, but he's been they've been kind of kicking him off his own team. So I don't know how good James Robinson really is compared to, is he just getting a lot of touches and he's just strong because he gets into the end zone a lot.
Good fantasy running back.
Yeah, they lost Chark though. Marvin Jones is getting very old. Christian Kirk was a terrible signing. What does a good year look like for Christian Kirk? Like 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, what is it?
And
what does it
especially
look
on
like
that contract? So
exactly. And then you have who's even the other guy? The guy Laviska Shenault is maybe their slot guy. I don't like the way that offense is built with their weapons. So that kind of scares me a little bit, but I do like Doug Peterson a lot as a coach. I like Trevor Lawrence now as he's looking a lot more poised. He still overthrew some people the other day, but he's a great quarterback. But it really just feels like it's a social experiment. The best quarterback prospect ever in the worst organization ever. It's fun to watch.
Bottom two.
The Lions.
And the Browns.
True. They had their own Super Bowl for like worst franchise ever. Whoever can just lose the most.
Yeah. And those three, you nailed it right there. Lions, Browns, Jags. So we'll see. We'll see with them. And again, I don't think they're gonna if they make the playoffs, I will shave my head. So I mean,
join the club.
I'll join the club. So as we said, I don't think they're gonna do anything, obviously, but I think Doug Peterson is just gonna really help Trevor Lawrence grow as an NFL quarterback this year. But moving on, I want to talk about Desmond Ritter. I think he showed some promise yesterday. He wasn't great. I mean, he was 10 for 22, but he had that game-winning touchdown at the end. And I really liked your Dak Prescott comparison because as I was watching him yesterday, I mean, like that's literally who he reminded me of. I just liked him. I think he's got like a leader mentality, and I think I really like what the Falcons are building over there on offense. Drake London went out early that game yesterday, but if you're a Falcons fan and you're looking at this young offense right now, you have Kyle Pitts, Desmond Ritter, and Drake London. I don't think that's a bad trio to, build your future on right now. And you got Felipe Franks, the GOAT, backup tight end.
I love that they converted him to tight end. It's so perfect. It just fits Felipe Franks amazingly. But like you said, I think that they're building something pretty good out in Atlanta. They had a very good offseason. Their draft was filled with players that I really did like. They scouted high or graded high when I scouted them. And I get it, but there's just not anything else there. They had a great offseason with a lot of great players. But that's just where I was getting. It's the offensive line, and it's both of the trenches. The offensive and the defensive line are just absolutely terrible. I can name maybe one player on their defensive line, Grady Jarrett.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head. That might go for their whole defense outside of Jarrett and Terrell. I know they drafted Arnold Ebiketie, who I like off the edge. So there is some highlights there, but I just not this season, probably not next season. But they have 2 generational weapons in Kyle Pitts and Drake London, in my opinion. I like Ritter. He's got very good ball placement. He can sit a year behind Mariota, who I think is the perfect quarterback for him to sit behind. And I mean, I think that I like the coaching hire looking back on it. It's worked a little bit. They won 7 games last season, outperformed their expectations by a mile. I think that the Falcons, they've got a little bit of something building there, but they're a few years away because that roster is one of the worst in football right now, next to the Bears.
Absolutely agree with you there. But I think out of this QB class, I think Ritter's going to be the best one, if I'm being honest with you. I think he just we were talking about Malik Willis. I don't know how much he's really gonna I saw someone comparing Malik Willis and Lamar Jackson, and one thing that I just noticed off the bat is Lamar Jackson, I feel like always used his arm. Like I don't know if that sounds stupid, but I feel like he wasn't so reliant on his legs to make the play. Like he knew he always had the arm talent, and I don't know. I really like Ritter, and as you said, I don't think they're going to be anything for at least 2 to 3 years, but I really like him, and I like some of the things I saw from him yesterday. Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. I mean, they were playing the Lions. He had some pressures, and he was showing why he was a number 2 pick.
Should have been number 1 in my opinion. I
agree.
In every class, there's a guy who should go number 1, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, there's not really that in this class." Yeah, there was. It was Aiden Hutchinson. It's just the Jags had the number 1 pick. And everyone was like, yeah, Aiden Hutchinson to the Jags, cool. As soon as they found out that the Jags had the number 1 pick. And then the Jags were like, well, maybe not. Maybe we don't take Aiden Hutchinson. And that's what caused people to not be sure about who's going number 1 overall. I like Trayvon Walker. I think he was one of the guys that I was thinking like, oh, if a team takes him at like 11 or 12 or 13, they're stealing him. Not number 1. Like, yeah. It almost reminds me of Clelin Ferrell a little bit. And number 4. Great talent, a guy that I really liked as a player with some great physical ability, but they're not that highly touted, and they shouldn't go that high, because all that does is it just raises the expectation so much for them that how are they even going to live up to it if they're not that kind of player?
I absolutely agree with you. And I mean, I'm really happy Hutchinson ended up in Detroit, though. I feel like that was just like a perfect match. Played in Michigan and stayed there. So I really like that. But I do agree with you. Trayvon Walker looked pretty decent, though, in the Hall of Fame game from a couple clips I saw. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really see anything of him last night, but yeah, we'll see with him. It was just a Jaguars move. I wasn't really too surprised when that happened in the draft. But another team another player that 49ers fans should be pretty excited about in my eyes, Trey Lance had a really good drive yesterday. 4 for 5. He had that really deep touchdown, 76-yard touchdown to Danny Gray, 92 yards, 158 rating. I think he's the future of the 49ers quarterback 100% for sure. And people saying that keeping Jimmy G, that they should keep Jimmy G for another year and that it was working, I think that was stupid, that whole take on that. What is your whole take on like the Jimmy G Trey Lance drama?
It's exactly what Shanahan said was going to happen. Jimmy G is going to play a year, and then Trey Lance is going to come in, and this is exactly how you want to work a quarterback like Trey Lance, who spent the time in the FCS. Like, you don't want him playing right away in the NFL. That would have been a disaster. And people were like, oh, well, he couldn't win the job over Jimmy G. He's not that guy. No, this is exactly what we were expecting to happen. And Jimmy G, he went out there, he did his job, but he didn't do anything exceptional to get him to keep that job. So I think he'll get traded to a team a lot like the Sam Bradford trade from the Eagles a few years ago. Somebody's going to need a quarterback. There's a backup quarterback on the roster willing to take that spot, and you're able to get the value that you want for Jimmy G. That contract might make it a little bit more difficult, might not be able to get the first that the Eagles got for Sam Bradford, but it's still going to be like a higher pick, because it's going to be a starting quarterback for wherever he goes. So I think that it's all overblown. There is no real story between those two, because that's exactly how it was planned. And going back to Trey Lance and how he is as a player, I think he's incredible. I think that he's going to have an exceptional season. He's the perfect quarterback for the 49ers and the offense that they run. And I think that they are an incredibly scary team this season with Super Bowl aspirations for real this time, because what held them back before was the quarterback. Now I think they have a quarterback with the arm talent to be up there in the top of the league. I don't know.
I think he's really going to make Brandon Ayuk shine this year. I think that's my big prediction. I think Lance and Ayuk are going to do wonders. But another player in that game, Jordan Love, 3 interceptions last night. Yeah. Packers fans, you guys are probably saying, thank God we didn't trade Aaron Rodgers, because Jordan Love is not the truth.
Well, Aaron Rodgers is talking about retiring after this year, and
Aaron Rodgers is talking about everything. I don't trust him anymore.
Well, he was saying like the situation with him and Jordan Love is identical to the situation with him and Brett Favre, and that after 3 years, he took over for Brett Favre, and it's been 3 years with Jordan Love, and you just haven't seen anything from Jordan Love, not once, not in college, not in the NFL, not in preseason, not in high school. There is nothing on Jordan Love's tape except for an exceptionally strong arm to get you to buy into him.
And it's always been like he's always been one of those players where like, oh, watch out, like he's coming, like next year. When? Like when's it gonna happen? They had a 66 overall rating yesterday. I don't know. So in preseason, like yesterday, I feel like was supposed to be the game for him to prove like I can be like a quarterback.
In all NFL fairness, he was working with a 4th-string offensive line, 9th-string receivers,
3 interceptions,
and Josiah DeGuara at tight end.
I don't care. You can't throw 3 interceptions as a guy who's looking to take over for Aaron Rodgers, especially from the Green Bay Packers. I don't know. I can't see that.
Yeah, well, I'm not giving up on Jordan Love, but nothing has been exciting for him is all I'm going to say. There has been no flashes in the pan for Jordan Love to feel good about, even in the games that he started.
Their third string, Danny Ethan, went 6 for 8, had 123 yards as a touchdown. So right now, I mean, he looked pretty good. I mean, I know it was third string, but Jordan Love is probably like, damn, like
preseason sets.
I think that was just funny. But another Evan Neal. He looked like he had some of the same problems that he dealt with in college. He has that one move where he puts all his body weight on the defender, and then the defender can just push right by him and get to the quarterback, and he falls right to the ground. I think it's one of those things that you could definitely work on, obviously. And I think he's going to have a talent. I think he's going to have a year kind of like Penny did last year, where he struggles in the beginning, but then he, finds himself towards the middle of the year, and then he just continues to grow. But he had a couple plays, and I was like, wow, like he just fell he just fell right to the ground.
That scares me because honestly, that's not something that's very difficult to fix in an offensive tackle. And a lot when Evan Neal was a huge prospect, but that's what he was. He wasn't a finished talent. He was a prospect. So when you go to a team like the Giants, it's up to the coaching staff to fix the issues. And I don't trust that Giants coaching staff. I'm not as big on Brian Daboll as most people are. The last time there was a head coaching hire as highly touted as Brian Daboll was Matt Rule with the Carolina Panthers. And
I don't know why Matt Rule still has a job, to be honest with you.
Well, because he's got that insane contract, and he convinced them for an extra season to the Panthers are a joke. But more than that, I just don't like the way that you go ahead, because I'm looking. I just got something on my screen here.
I think the Giants, as you said, I think there's a lot of Giants fans going into this year saying that they think they're going to make a playoff push. They have a healthy Saquon Barkley. Their offensive line is regenerated. This is Daniel Jones's year because he finally has an offensive-minded head coach. No. You guys are going to be third or fourth in the division again, in my eyes. I could see the Commanders even having a better year than them. I don't know. I think it all comes down to your quarterback in my eyes, and I don't think Daniel Jones is that guy at all. He showed yesterday that I feel like he's not Danny Dimes, he's Danny Average. So, I mean,
Danny from Duke.
So, I mean, that's all he is to me. And I think until they really – I mean, this is my thing. They declined his fifth-year option. So, that just shows you, what they truly think about him. Because the last quarterbacks – every quarterback whose fifth-year option gets declined sucked. Like Johnny Manziel, every one of them, they were out of the league or they were back up by the next year. And I think Daniel Jones' career is going to just be him being a backup, which is fine. But I think the Giants are not going to take that next step until they realize this guy's not it, and we need to find our next guy. And I think that's going to happen next year.
I think they're on Jimmy G watch, honestly.
That would be so funny.
The Giants are very confusing to me because they want to win soon. They bought into their roster last season, and they kind of screwed them over.
Horrible.
Well, their whole entire receiving core is horrible, and now they've got their pieces to go and make this push now, but you still don't have a quarterback. And I think they put themselves into a position where they're going to be too good to draft a quarterback like Stroud or Young or Levis in the top 5, because I don't know that they're a bottom 5 team, but it just
they're
how do you fill that position?
They're like what we talked about. It doesn't really fit, I guess, as much in the NBA, or in the NFL, excuse me, because I feel like in the NFL it's literally like you are bad or you're good. And there's not really a lot of middle of the road teams, I guess there are, but you know what I mean. But they're like what we talked about in the NBA. They're like fighting for the play-in, and until they realize we shouldn't be fighting for the play-in, we should be fighting for the first overall pick, you guys are going to be stuck there. And I think that's just what the New York Giants are. And as I said, there's New York Giants fans who realistically see them making the playoffs this year, and then there's New York Giants fans who want them to tank another year. So they're right there stuck in the middle. I think they're going to be another year of disappointment for the Giants and Daniel Jones. And I think next year Daniel Jones is going to be Mac Jones' backup in New England. So that's basically what I see.
That's a hot take.
That's basically what I see.
But I don't disagree. Going back to the point that I was making earlier, I don't trust this staff to develop people. I don't trust them to make Evan Neal the best version of Evan Neal that you can possibly make him. Like they didn't do it with Andrew Thomas. Giants fans continue to try and convince me that Andrew Thomas is an elite left tackle when really he's solid. He's serviceable at left tackle. That's not like something to be proud of. You took him in the top 5, or I think it was 6. So there's not really something to hang your hat on in New York as a fan. And that would scare me. You're like right in the middle. That's not where you want to be.
I did like their draft this year, though. I feel like I think Kayvon was good. I
don't like the draft because what? They had two picks in the top 10. They took the best players available there. Of course, you're going to take Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal there, but you had those 2 top 10 picks for a reason because you're not a good team. Outside of those picks is how you build your team. They took Wan'Dale Robinson so high for no reason. Wan'Dale Robinson to me is a non-factor. He's a worse Kadarius Toney. And then the rest of their draft, they did nothing really. Like I think they had a better draft last season. I like Ojulari a lot. Ojulari and McKinney are guys that I'm a huge fan of. But this season, I think they just kind of took what was there.
Yeah, but like they took what's there, but I don't think you could say like they messed it up. Like True. They did what they had to do. And there's a lot of teams where you're like, holy shit, like why did they draft him? You know, so I feel like they did what they had to do. And
the Bears
as a rookie general manager, can't hate on that. So again, as I said, I don't think the Giants are anything this year. I think they end up being 4th in the division, and that's all on the Giants I got.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle for last place with them and the Commanders, 2 dumpster fire teams.
Talking about the division, we got the Cowboys and the Eagles, and I think that's what's going to really come down to. But I think at the end of the day, the Eagles have such a better team just all around than the Dallas Cowboys right now. I don't really like that defense at all. The weapons difference is insane to me, I really think. And if you told me at the beginning of last season that the Eagles' weapons would be this superior in my eyes to the Dallas Cowboys, I probably would have laughed in your face because I would have not thought that at all. I mean, you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. You have a really good running back room. Quez Watkins, I really like. Zach Pasquale. So I think that the Eagles are going to be one of those teams to make a lot of noise this year. And yesterday in preseason, Nick Sirianni showed why he's one of my favorite head coaches. I mean, he literally screamed at Robert Saleh from across the sideline. He was pissed off, rightfully so. I mean, Williams, I don't know how
he needs to be caught.
I don't know how Saleh didn't rip his head off for that. And he literally looked like a scared puppy dog on the sideline. He was just, a huddle, not really making eye contact. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, what happened to the Robert Saleh who was like getting pushed from the sideline as the 49ers defensive coordinator? So yeah, that pissed me off, yo. That pissed me off though.
It was a horrible hit. You can't do that in the preseason. He doesn't deserve a job in the NFL. And I think he probably will not make the opening day roster. But I think the Cowboys missed their window. I think their window was the last 3-4 years when there was a time where they had
triplets.
They had the best defense in the league for a minute, when it was led by Leighton Vander Esch in his rookie year, and Jalen Smith was good for a season. They had the decent corners, like they had that, and then the next year they came back. They were like, all right, well, we have the great defense. We're going to go all in on offense, and they like got their offense all studded out, and then the defense wasn't that great that year. And then last year it was kind of more of the same thing. And now they don't have a great offense or a great defense. And they're stuck paying Dak Prescott $45 million a year to be a top 10, maybe quarterback, maybe top 10.
What are they paying Zeke? Like
it's close to 20.
Yeah, and he looks fat as ever in training camp right now. So, I mean, never pay running back that was so dumb. That was so dumb, especially because like I've been reading stuff about the Cowboys, and they're apparently looking to they're gonna use Pollard a lot this year too. So I mean, he's
better. He's the better running back.
And Zeke is getting paid $20 million, and they're never gonna admit that was wrong, obviously, but they're stuck with it. And I think that, as you said, the Cowboys window definitely closed in my eyes. And we talked about this last episode, but people are always saying, Micah Parsons is gonna be this much better. how much better is he going to be? Like
how much better can he
be? Yeah, exactly. So, and they lost a couple key pieces there, and they didn't really get any better. And, maybe they'll go and trade for Raekwon Smith or something if he doesn't get sign that extension with the Bears. But, as we talked about last episode, I think he's staying. So I think this is it for the Cowboys. I think this is their roster. This is where they're at. And I think they're going to be a middle of the road team.
Yeah, the only other team I wanted to talk about today was the Cardinals and their game the other day where they had Kyler Murray call the plays in the fourth quarter.
And he did so bad. There was like 3 punts.
-2 total yards with Kyler Murray calling the plays. I mean, it's so funny what they have going on there. And the fact that they extended Kime, they extended their they extended Cliff Kingsbury, they extended Kyler Murray, they extended everybody involved in this process to get them to the point where they just got embarrassed in the first round. That was their season to like that's when you have Kyler Murray without the extension. This is your last year with the rookie deal of a quarterback. This is when you go to win, and they just got completely embarrassed in the first round. And now I think they're just embarrassing themselves even more. They just paid DJ Humphries 3 years, $70 million. That's the same contract that DK Metcalf got. I like some of the DJ Humphries songs. What the fuck does he know about being a top 10 left tackle? He doesn't know anything. He's not a top 10 left tackle. He's terrible. So they've got a very subpar offensive line for a quarterback who does not work well because he can't see over the offensive line in a bad pocket. So you've got that. You trade your first round pick, a higher pick than Marquise Brown was drafted in. You get him in. DeAndre Hopkins is out for 8 games?
7 games.
7 games. You've got James Conner in the backfield, who I don't like at all. I don't think he's a very good running back by any means. He was just a touchdown vulture. Their defense has maybe one good cornerback in Byron Murphy, who's a slot cornerback. So they've got 2 nobodies on the outside.
They don't know how to use a lot of their players too. They don't know how to use Isaiah Simmons. Who's the other guy they drafted first round last year?
Zaven Collins.
Zaven Collins, another guy I think of. And going back to the Kyler Murray calling the plays, and you're just talking about like all the dysfunction. The reason they did that was because they were saying when Cliff Kingsbury calls certain plays, Kyler Murray would literally like pout in like the huddle, and he would like say things under his breath or just put on an attitude. Like, you literally extended this guy knowing all of this. So as you said, I think it's going to be a complete dumpster fire for the Cardinals, and I think especially this year. So they got what they deserved, though. They extended all these guys even after a season they just had. So we'll see with them, and that's really it for the Cardinals. Trace McSorley had a pretty good game last night as a backup, so they got that at least.
They got so overhyped because they took advantage of the Texans twice with JJ Watt and DeAndre Hopkins, and then we're like, well, wait, is Stephen Keim the best GM to ever walk? And then he just hasn't done anything since. So that's the Cardinals for you.
They're just the definition of one of those teams who they have a lot of cool play. There's not really a definition, but they have a lot of cool players, I guess you could say, but they don't have the right players. If that makes enough sense.
Oh, 100%.
Their offensive line, they aren't built the way a championship team is built. You can't win a championship with one really good cornerback and in my eyes a diva quarterback. Did I say one corner or one quarterback? I meant
you said one corner. One corner.
Okay, good. Yeah. And you can't win with a diva quarterback. You can't win with an old defense. I don't know. I hate this. I hate the Cardinals. I'd hate to be a Cardinals fan. I think they are so far away from being contenders in my eyes.
Absolutely.
And that's just all on the Cardinals. But that division this year is going to be so easy a walkthrough for the Rams in my eyes. It's terrible.
Niners.
Or the Niners, yeah. Nah, I still think the Rams are better than the Niners. But I think it's going to be...
I disagree. I 100% disagree with that.
I think the Rams are better than the Niners, 100%.
I think the Niners win that division very easily.
And that all depends on Stafford's hand injury in my eyes. If his hand hurts, yeah, I could say that. But if he's 80%, I think they win it.
Niners clear.
I really like Sean McVay. I like his whole scheme. And I like that. Yeah. I think McVay's better. But we'll see, I guess. I really like McVay.
It's close. It's very close between the two.
And
I think they're like the same thing.
They are, but I don't know. I think
Very
I
hard
think
to judge head coaches.
it all just comes down to Trey Lance for the 49ers, to be honest. And I am a Trey Lance believer. I think he's going to be really good. But yeah, it's all it really comes down to. And I could see it definitely. I mean, they make every running back they get literally look like a superstar for no reason. Like every 49ers running back the past 3 years has like been a top fantasy guy that week. So
Yep.
we'll see. We'll see. But I think it's going to be Rams, 49ers, and then just everybody else in that division.
It's fair.
But talking about
hard.
the division, one little thing. Seahawks fans, how do you feel about Geno Smith being your QB1 heading into this year? So
did they announce that?
He was QB1 in preseason. He's walking into that so far.
I am like strangely high on Drew Lock, and I always have been. Drew Lock has always been one of my guys who just like I want to see every time I watch Drew Lock, I like what I watch. Like he's got a good arm. He's got the swagger.
He's got the swagger. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I like Drew. I like Drew Lock. So I'm hoping, I'm rooting for him. This is the exact situation where he could take over and take a step, because who better to beat out in a competition than Geno Smith? I don't think Geno Smith has ever won a quarterback competition in his life. So
exactly.
If Drew Lock's going to show it, it's going to be now.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. You got anything else today?
No, that's about it from me.
I agree with you. Well, thank you. This is CCSN episode 5 podcast. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys again.